Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. Today, I've got NOLUS. NOLUS is a custodial free lending application that is built on its own blockchain within the Cosmos ecosystem. We'll talk to one of the founders, Kamen, and he's going to take us through what we'll be launching probably in Q2 of this year. And before I even bring him in, I just want to say that in general, when I think of decentralized finance, I think of borrowing, lending various assets. And I feel like in DeFi overall, there are very few of these, at least very few that are sustainable and have deep liquidity. So happy to bring him in and we'll get started talking about NOLUS. Hey, Kamen, how are you?
Hey, John, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me here. Pretty well. You?
Doing great, doing great. Is there anything I missed about the platform before we get into the discussion? Anything you want to say about you know, the big picture that you guys are looking to solve?
I totally liked what you make as an intro. Keep in mind that the NOLUS protocol is a non-custodial solution not only to borrowers and lenders, but also you can non-custodially do different transactions. You can purchase, you can sell, you can buy, you can swap, you can stake your crypto, you can take a loan, you can be a lender. So it's a one-stop shop for anyone that wants to interact with crypto or do their first crypto transactions, or just take a loan at different paces.
Got it. Okay, well, that's good to know. So you guys are gonna be a comprehensive DeFi app. Uh, let's do this. Ordinarily, I start off the guests with a couple of yes or no questions, and then we could dig deeper into what's coming from your team. So the first yes or no question is whether or not this is an open source application.
Yes, entirely.
Okay, entirely open source. That's good to know. And question number two, is it possible for lenders to get yield by supplying stable coins?
That is the whole idea behind lenders incentivization. Yes,
So,
so they get
okay,
rewarded for that.
got it. Okay. And are stakers also earning yield from activity on the platform?
Indeed, they are. It's a proof of stake blockchain. So yes,
And last yes or no question, will there be some sort of airdrop when the mainnet launches later this year?
it wouldn't be the ordinary airdrop. There would be incentivized activities and campaigns that people would be able to do, and they earn rewards through those.
So kind of like attracting people who want to actually use the platform, and those people will be incentivized at the onset of the launch. Is that right?
Exactly. Or
Cool.
they just make user testing of our web app. They create some DeFi leases on the test version of it.
Got it. Okay. All right. I did go through your documents a little bit and I checked out your website, and one of the things that jumped out at me that I want to definitely touch on is the shying away from the idea of over collateralization. Can you go into that just a little bit? What are some of the problems with over collateralization and how your platform is a little bit different than some of the others that are out there?
Well, the problem with over-collateralization is that every lender out there in the crypto world is over-collateralizing the assets, the digital assets. So they are basically want you to provide any collateral, they give you up to 50% out of it, and they fully liquidate you after, let's say, 35% drop of the price.
Right, right, right.
So we want to turn that around. That's why we called it a DeFi lease, because in a lease position, for example, to purchase a vehicle, you provide a down payment and you start using the asset from day one. And then you repay the remaining of the loan that you have taken, but you still own and use that asset. So transfer to the NOLUS protocol, you provide a down payment. The NOLUS protocol gives you a loan in stables, and both the down payment and the loan covers your position. So basically, it gives you 3 times more exposure because we don't give only 50%, but actually 150% above the down payment. So more exposure, but also lower liquidation or margin call risk, meaning over collateralized loans divided by 3. So you basically get better rates for margin calls at higher exposure. And because you own the asset, you can, for example, earn rewards through the time of the DeFi lease by liquid staking it or by using different yield optimization strategies that would be whitelisted by the protocol.
Okay, so that's where on your website it says something about 150% financing.
Yes, so above the down payment. The down payment, if the down payment is 10,000 for a very simple example, you get up to 15,000 in a loan position, and then the 25,000 would be your purchasing power. Now you can purchase with those 25,000 the asset that you desire.
Okay, can you give an example of an asset that someone might borrow and then go ahead and start trading or start buying? Like, what will you have on your chain?
As at the very beginning, which is in Q2 this year, we would be having the once assets that are available in liquidity on Osmosis, because we're starting as Osmosis being our central DEX towards our transactions. So, for example, BTC, Ethereum, Wrapped BTC, Wrapped Ethereum, Osmo, Atom, Secret, CRO, all the assets that have sufficient liquidity, which are 10 to 12 within the Cosmos ecosystem, will be the first to join. Then when we move outside of the Cosmos ecosystem through Axelar, for example, general message passing, we would be able to get EVM chains and also tap the liquidity from different DEXs there and add additional tokens from EVM chains as well.
Are you guys working on a partnership with Axelar?
We would be using their technology, yes, and we would be trying to tap that technology into our smart contracts going toward the other blockchains. Yes.
Okay. Um, from the lender's point of view, and I know we didn't get into the non-custodial nature yet, but from the lender's point of view, is there more risk to having this 150% financing? How is that managed?
No, actually, the risk is even less compared to what we've seen in the past 1 or 2 years, where centralized entities actually act with the deposits of the lenders. Now, here in this, let's touch the non-custodial thing. With the non-custodial platform, you actually, as a lender, provide stable coins into the pools. And if the borrower in some degree defaults or gets liquidated, the lender receives the full amount that he has already provided to the pool. Because the only way that liquidations would happen on the borrowing side would be partially. Yes, they would be much better margin call risk, but if the price, for example, drops by 45%, partial liquidation will happen. Then if it continues dropping, another will happen. And finally, the full amount that the lender has provided as well would be returned together with the interest. So the risk is minimal.
Got it. Yeah, the partial liquidations to me kind of set your platform apart. Does this exist on other lending platforms? It's not that common. I know that. Um, how did you guys come up with the partial liquidations?
Well, it only makes sense to do it like that. I've never understood why other companies don't and why other lenders don't. Because you get just a one liquidation and that's it, you are gone. Why not have it on partials? Yes, it's a little bit more work and technological level to do it, but then from a user experience, it's much better.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's going to be efficient, especially because crypto is just volatile in nature, right? With stocks, before you get liquidated, someone or before you get a margin call, someone will call you and give you the option to either sell some assets or deposit more money before you get liquidated. What I've seen is that there could be a short, like 1 minute candle that liquidates a whole bunch of people. And sometimes that sets off kind of a cascading effect that really didn't need to happen. Do these partial liquidations kind of protect against extreme cases like that?
Yes, this is exactly so. So in the example of a partial liquidation on the NOLUS protocol, you get, for example, 20 or 25% of the asset liquidated. So if such a candle happens, it would actually liquidate not 100% as any others, but actually only 25%. And then you still have the remaining 75% covering your position, which is still great. Now the price needs to drop another 10% so that you get another 25% liquidation. But you still get 50% out of the position. You're still better off like that.
Understood. Understood. All right. I think that, like I said, I think that the partial liquidations caught my attention first. The first time you gave me the documents, and we did have a little bit of a chat. Um, I think this gives people a chance to rebuild their position, right? So that they could hold on to these loans longer, right? Depending on whatever DeFi activity they're doing with the borrowed assets. Um, does this result in better yield for the lenders?
It would result in a constant real yield to the lenders because the people would get incentivized to keep the borrowing position for longer.
Right. Okay. Okay. Um, there's also there's something on the in the documents that mentions self-repaying loans. Can you explain what the mechanism is on the NOLUS platform that allows for these self-repaying loans, and maybe what it would look like from the borrower's point of view?
I got a little bit of hint the previous time I was talking because of ownership. Now you own the smart contract and you own the asset that you want to purchase on the borrowing solution. If that, for example, is Atom, you have some atoms that are locked into that smart contract that covers your position. You can use those atoms during your DeFi lease, during your lending period, to liquid stake them. If you liquid stake them, you actually get rewards in the sort of 20-22% APY, which
Yep.
is much higher compared to the interest that you would be paying to the protocol. And this is why it becomes self-repaying, because the rewards are higher than the interest that you're paying. And then once they're higher, it starts repaying your principal as well.
Does the user have to do this manually, or there'll be something in the platform that can regularly send staking rewards over to repay the loan?
It is actually a voluntary click on the platform. Once you decide to do so, it immediately under the hood, everything happens. So it's swapped to the staked atom. The staked atom starts receiving rewards. Then you get the rewards in your wallet, and that's it. You need to click one tick that you want to do that.
Got it. Okay. I mean, this is interesting. You guys are a Cosmos chain. Obviously, you're taking advantage of IBC, right? Um, I think some people would want to hear a little bit, at least, about what technology under the hood is allowing this to happen. Like you say, it's just a click. The first time I used Restake, I was like, wow, this is so great. I don't have to come in every day and check my rewards. It sounds like it's something similar. What's actually going on under the hood that people can't see? If you could comment on that.
Regarding technology, we are built with Cosmos SDK, so and Rust as a language. So we're pretty much in the sphere of Cosmos languages that we're building. But we have IBC and interchain accounts active from day one. This actually allows us to become cross-chain, because with those technologies we are able to cross different chains and do transactions, or even go to Osmosis and do those transactions. So this is the core of what we're building. Regarding the liquid staking, for example, it's a simple integration that we have done with Stride. For example, as a beginning, we would be also doing such with persistence for the liquid staked assets. And yield optimization schemes that we would be adding, we would be doing such integrations with different protocols so that people during their DeFi lease can use it and earn rewards.
Wow. Okay. So you guys have done a lot of legwork. It sounds like partnering and using various technologies and teams throughout the ecosystem. How long has this been under development?
The idea came out like 15 months ago. Development started like almost 12 months already. So we've built a team of 25 employees, probably 16 or 17 are the developers. So we have been building it for a while. We haven't been public for a long time. We have been public for only 2 months or so. The idea behind that is that we see a competitive advantage of what we are building. And as an open source technology, we couldn't, and we didn't want to allow anyone to start seeing what we are building from day one. So that's why we actually came up to the community like very short time ago.
All right. Well, upon launch, you said everything's going to be open source, right? And all of the functions that you described, will this be on one single application or will you have multiple separate applications on the chain?
It would be on one simple application where you can do any single one of those transactions.
Okay, so technically it's an app chain, but there'll be lots of
Technically,
different things that you can do.
yes,
Wow.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. All right. I want to get into something else. I think a lot of people who are sticking out the bear market and kind of suffering with the token prices have finally realized that the having inflation as the only form of incentives is not sustainable for the long term. But I know in your documents, you guys have multiple ways to create revenue besides your token inflation, whatever that might be upon launch. Can you go over, the multiple revenue streams and just how you see that playing out in terms of how profitable these and sustainable the applications are?
Yes, let me get one thing straight. When we talk about revenue, we are never going to be centralized entity. So the revenue here means that the protocol is making some funds that it would be using to incentivize different participants on the network.
Right.
Now we have in the beginning revenue streams, three revenue streams that actually is a transaction cost, a swap fee, and a margin cost between lenders and borrowers. All these revenue streams, for example, they have one simple purpose: to buy back our token on the open market and refuel the lender's incentive pool. So we are basically creating a buyback product through the smart contracts to refuel the pool that lenders would be receiving as rewards in the future. And this is one of the main goals, to keep lenders on the protocol for longer time, not only in the beginning when they would be able to receive like 30-40% APY through our token and through stables, but also in the long run when this incentive pool gets refilled through the revenue streams.
Okay. So okay, I thought that that was the most interesting part of your white paper, because if there are lots of people using the platform and receiving incentives, there will be sell pressure on the token. But as more people are using the application, you now have uh, revenue that's going to buy the token, and I think it should refill that incentives pool. So, is the incentives pool a limited amount of tokens that just gets constantly sold and bought, sold and bought?
It starts at 12% of the total token supply,
Okay.
and then it's not limited. As long as the buyback is, for example, much higher compared to the selling pressure or to the rewards that given, it would actually make deflationary the amount of tokens that are in usage and
Yes.
put it into the incentive pool. But then with time, once more lenders come, those incentive pool would go to the lenders again. And they would be distributing and using it for something else. And it's a constant cycle, but the revenue streams actually provide the opportunity to be on the safer side of the selling and buying pressure.
All right. Because I have seen with other protocols, I'm not going to name them, but 99% of the activity is people selling rewards, selling rewards, selling rewards, and then you have to sell more rewards to get the same um, actual incentives. It sounds like you guys have created just like a stabilizing system here, where, like you said, it's like a cycle. More people using the platform, since the platform is going to be profitable, it's going to generate revenue. Some of that's going to get used to offset and replenish the incentives that are sold. And I think people that are watching this, this is probably the most important part of what you built, right? Because it sounds like it has a very good chance to be viable long term.
Exactly so. This is why we actually created, because we never saw anyone else doing it.
Yeah,
And it makes sense to do it. It makes sense
it
because
does.
it makes the lenders incentive pool constantly refilled.
Yeah, and this is going to be the same token that's also used for staking, right?
It's also used for the governance voting. The NOS token, our native token on the blockchain, would be also used for the gas, would be also used to stake by different participants like lenders and borrowers, and they would be receiving additional perks for doing so.
Got it. And let's say this buyback system, it needs to be modified over time. Can this be done through governance or can it be done a different way? How does that work?
Through governance, everything from live event would be happening through governance.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Um, from the lender's point of view, still, I come onto the platform and I'm going to lend, let's say, my stable coins, right? I IBC over some whatever USDC something. I lend that. Um, I'm technically not going to be staking. I might not be staking the layer one token, right? Is it possible to have some type of say in the governance, or will that individual strictly be earning yield from lending, and then we'll have to buy layer one tokens to then vote on governance?
You need to have the NOS token for governance, but if you want to be just a lender without participating in the governance, you can deposit your stable coins into the pools and just earn rewards.
Got it. I just
Nobody asks you to be part of the governance if you don't want to do that.
so you just need a little bit of tokens for gas fees on the
Yes, but
platform, and
it
that's it.
it would be extremely small amount because it's a app chain and Cosmos is famous for having small transaction costs. So
Right, right,
yeah,
right, right. I mean, yeah, you rarely see transaction costs over a couple of cents
yes.
in US dollars. Sometimes way, 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 way less. All right. No, this sounds really good. And like I said in the intro, when I think of decentralized finance, I think of lending, right? Finance in general, lending, borrowing. I mean, that's what banks do, right? It's not only swapping tokens or trading, speculating, right? Um, if you had to kind of summarize what your platform offers against one of the older, I would say more basic lending platforms, like let's say Aave, what are the two or three major differences for someone who's only used Aave and maybe just discovering NOLUS for the first time?
Well, the first one is that we are not only buy and sell. You can do much more on a non-custodial way. Then the second one is that for the borrowing solution, we actually provide more exposure at lower margin call risk and the availability to earn rewards and create self-repaying loan. And on the lender side, we actually provide a lot of rewards and a lot of incentives and buyback mechanism to incentivize lenders in the long term. We are also working on cash basis, meaning that when a borrower repays something in cash, the lender immediately receives it. This gives them security that the cash that they have provided in terms of stablecoins would be returned to them with interest. I think
Uh,
those three are the ones that differentiate us a lot.
yeah. Yeah. So I think Aave is probably the most popular lending borrowing platform, but it's not a layer one. So it's a lot different than something like this. It's really hard for that Aave token to really reflect the activity on the platform, right? To me, the ETH token captures a lot of the value from the platform, right? In this case, you have a layer one token that the borrowing and lending is going to depend on for gas, for governance, um, and also incentives. Plus, you have a mechanism using just revenue, not inflation, to buy back these incentives that should, depending on activity, create a just a more sustainable, price for the incentive token to keep people on the platform. Is that accurate?
It's absolutely accurate. In
Yeah.
addition, you actually also are able to use, we are using stable coins, the main funds of how to operate on the protocol. So with Aave Compound, for example, there are segregated pools with liquidity for different tokens, Ethereum, BTC, whatever the token is. With us, everything happens in stables. And this allows great flexibility because we're just using DEXs in order to swap that stable to any asset that the user wants to take, lend, or whatever.
Right. So, I mean, obviously, this is one of the advantages of IBC and the Cosmos
Exactly.
ecosystem. And yeah, I really think DeFi is still very raw in Cosmos. It would be nice to see even several competing lending platforms that have maybe slightly different models just to see which one is better for the long term. And I think as far as the token, I think you guys thought about really, really, really deeply how to just preserve the value of that token and also allow it to capture the value of the activity on the platform itself.
Thank you. We're hoping and we're thinking absolutely the same. That was the goal.
Well, I mean, again, for people that are watching this, documents are definitely interesting. Very not that similar to Aave, to be honest with you. There's just a lot of new concepts in there, not only with the revenue, but the partial liquidations I found interesting. And just the fact that it's a layer one changes things a little bit, a little bit. Is there anything that we missed that you want to talk about? Maybe related to the launch quarter two, possibly, before we wrap this up.
Well, here there would be a beta version of the web app probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks that we would be launching. We would encourage, as I mentioned, the incentivized airdrop or campaign. We would encourage people to try it out because this would actually give us the opportunity to see what they like, what they do dislike, and how we can structure it even better for them because they would be the end users of it.
And again, anybody can use it, not just devs, right? It could be someone like me that just wants to test out the platform.
We are coming with a lot of Web 2 UI experience, so it will be as simple as possible. Everything could happen on 2 clicks. It's for regular people trying the crypto world. Yes.
All right. Well, that definitely got my attention. I think that a lot of platforms are trying to look totally different from traditional Web 2 UIs, and I think it's a mistake. I think people need to it needs to be more intuitive, and for the most part, we're all used to how Web 2 pages load up, where the buttons are, and what to expect. So I'm definitely going to check that out. And like I said before we started recording, I'm looking forward to doing a little tutorial and like kind of an overview of the test net. I think that'll be really cool, really cool.
We would be glad to do that.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Can't wait to get this video out. People that watch to the end, hopefully you got as much as I did out of this. Really looking forward to putting some stable coins to use. So I'll be one of the early users of your platform for sure. So thanks
That's
for
great.
that.
It was a pleasure.
All right.